Get up, Chelsea. You're embarrassing yourself. That was my sister. Said it loud enough for the whole backyard to hear. Loud enough for Mrs. Patterson next door to stop watering her roses and look over the fence. My name is Chelsea Howard. I'm 31 years old. I have 2 titanium rods in my lumbar spine, 14 surgical screws holding what's left of L5 and L4 together, and a right leg that doesn't always remember it belongs to me. And on the 4th of July, in the backyard of the house I grew up in, Charlotte, North Carolina, Pinecrest Drive, my sister Brittany grabbed the handles of my wheelchair and tipped it forward. The grass came up fast. My palms hit first, then my elbow, then the side of my face caught the edge of the cooler someone had left open in the grass. The ice water soaked through my hair instantly. Cold, sharp, real. I lay there and I heard the music, somebody's Bluetooth speaker, Beyoncé of all things, and I heard the sizzles from the grill, and I heard my Aunt Georgina say somewhere behind me, "Lord, not again." Not again, like this was a pattern, like I made a habit of ending up on the ground. Brittany stood over me. Red, white, and blue sundress, white claw in her hand, acrylic nails done. She looked like a holiday card. "Get up, Chelsea. I saw you stand up in the kitchen 20 minutes ago, so drop the act." 50 people in that backyard. Family, neighbors, her friends from work I'd never met. Connor was by the grill, spatula in hand, not moving. Christina stood near the porch steps, eyes wide, phone halfway to her chest. My cousin Bailey was the only one already walking toward me, and Brittany stopped her with one look. She's fine. This is what she does. She wants attention. I want to tell you I said something powerful right then. I want to tell you I had words ready. I didn't. I was on the ground with ice water in my ear and gravel in my palm and the right side of my face already throbbing, and all I could think was, I called her 3 times this week. She never picked up. I had tried to cancel coming today. She texted me, "Mom will be devastated if you don't show." So I showed, and now I was in the grass. I tried to push myself up. My arms shook, not from weakness, from the nerve damage that fires wrong signals down my right side, from the spinal fusion that makes bending a calculation, not a reflex. I made it halfway. My right leg folded. I went back down. Someone laughed. Not a mean laugh. Worse, a confused one. The kind that means they don't know what to do, so they default to dismissal. "See?" Brittany's voice dropped low, like she was explaining something to a child. 2 years of this. 2 years of doctor appointments and modified vans and handicap placards, and the second nobody's watching, she's walking around the kitchen just fine. She's been playing all of you. I found my voice. It came out smaller than I wanted. "I told you that was physical therapy. I can walk 12 steps with a walker before the nerve pain starts. I've told you this." 12 steps. She laughed. Actually laughed. Convenient number. That's when I saw it. Jackson, her boyfriend, man I'd met exactly twice, had his phone up, recording. Vertical video, steady hand. Like he'd been ready. Like this was planned. My wheelchair was on its side 2 feet away, one wheel still spinning slow in the July heat. And somewhere in that backyard, standing near the back fence with a glass of sweet tea, was a woman I didn't recognize. She wasn't family, she wasn't a neighbor. She was watching Brittany, not me, and she was writing something down. I didn't know who she was yet. I would. That stranger put her notepad away, set down her sweet tea, and walked straight towards my sister. If this hit you, subscribe. Don't miss what's next. Chelsea is still on the ground. Brittany has no idea what's coming. And that stranger, she's about to change everything.
Her name was Sage Ellison. I didn't know that yet.
All I knew was she was walking across my mother's backyard like she owned every inch of it. Past the folding tables, past the cooler, past Connor, who finally put down his spatula just to watch her, walking straight toward my sister with the kind of calm that doesn't come from being relaxed. It comes from being prepared. Brittany saw her coming and smiled, the hostess smile, the one she used on people she didn't know but wanted to manage. "Can I help you, honey?" "You already did." Sage stopped 2 feet from Brittany. She was maybe 40, natural hair, linen blazer in this July heat like she hadn't even broken a sweat. She held up her phone, not to record, just to show. The screen was facing Brittany. I couldn't see what was on it from the ground, but I watched my sister's smile fall off her face like it was never attached. "My name is Sage Ellison. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm also a disability rights advocate contracted with Mecklenburg County. I've been assigned to Chelsea Howard's case for the last 6 weeks." The backyard went quiet. Even the Bluetooth speaker seemed to dim. "I've been here since the food came out. I watched everything, and I have it documented." Brittany laughed. She actually laughed, but it was different now, thinner, like paper. "Documented what? My sister fell. She loses her balance sometimes. That's kind of the whole point." "You tipped the wheelchair forward. I was standing 11 feet away. I have a clear line of sight, and my notes are time-stamped." My Aunt Georgina sat down in her lawn chair like her knees gave out. Christina finally moved, walked toward me, knelt in the grass beside me, and for the first time in 20 minutes, someone put their hand on my shoulder. I hadn't realized how much I needed that, someone just being there. Bailey picked up my wheelchair, righted it, locked the wheels, didn't say a word, just held it steady so I could reach the armrest. Getting up off the ground with a spinal fusion is not graceful. It is slow and it is ugly, and it requires you to completely abandon your pride for about 45 seconds. I've done it 9 times since my accident. I know the count because each one gets logged in my physical therapy chart. 9 times on the ground. This was number 9. Sage didn't rush to help me. She stayed where she was, between me and Brittany, and that was exactly the right thing to do. Once I was back in my chair, she turned to the whole backyard, not just Brittany. Everyone. Under North Carolina General Statute 14-32.2, assault on a disabled person is a Class F felony. Physical force against someone with a mobility impairment, including deliberately causing them to fall from a mobility device, carries up to 41 months. That's before we talk about the video. "What video?" Brittany's voice cracked on the second word. "Jackson been recording since before it happened, so have 2 other people at this party who don't realize they caught it in the background. I've already been in contact with them." Jackson lowered his phone. Too late. Brittany looked at me then, really looked at me, maybe for the first time all day. I don't know what she expected to find. Guilt, maybe, or fear, or the version of me that used to shrink when she got loud. I was so tired of being that version. "Chelsea," her voice was different now, lower, almost private, like the 50 people around us had disappeared. I wasn't trying to. I let her hang there for a moment. "I know what you were trying to do, Brittany." Sage touched my arm gently. "There's a Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer parked 2 streets over. I called ahead before I came inside the gate. He's waiting on my word."
She looked at me, not at Brittany, not at the crowd, at me. Chelsea, it's your call. Every part of what happens next is your call. I looked at my sister, her perfect dress, her shaking hands, the white claw she'd set down somewhere and forgotten, the way her eyes were doing the thing they always did when she realized she'd gone too far, that specific kind of panic that had always made me back down. Not today. I opened my mouth to answer Sage, and that's when my mother walked out the back door. She took one look at the scene, at me in my chair, at Sage, at Brittany's face, at the whole yard standing frozen like a photograph. And she said the 6 words that split that day in 2. "What did you do, Brittany Lynn?"
My mother's name is Georgette Howard. She is 58 years old. She raised 2 daughters in that house on Pinecrest Drive on a schoolteacher's salary after my father left when I was 7 and Brittany was 9. She taught 4th grade for 26 years. She made our Halloween costumes by hand. She drove me to every single one of my post-surgery appointments without being asked, without complaining, without once making me feel like a burden. She also spent 2 years believing Brittany's version of me. That's the part that still lives in my chest like a splinter. She came down the porch steps slowly, the way she does when her knees are bothering her, one hand on the rail. She was wearing her good apron, the yellow one she saves for company, and she had a dish towel over her shoulder and reading glasses pushed up on her forehead. She looked at Brittany first, then at Sage, then at me. Her face did something I hadn't seen it do in a long time. It went still. Someone tell me what happened to my daughter. Not a question, a requirement. Brittany moved first. She always moved first. That was always the strategy. Get to Mom before the other version of events did. Mama, Chelsea lost her balance getting out of the chair, and now this woman is out here making it into something it wasn't. I tipped the wheelchair. Sage said it, flat. No emotion, just the fact sitting there in the July heat. Deliberately, from behind. I was standing 11 feet away and I documented it in real time. I also have secondary video from 2 guests who've already agreed to provide their footage. My mother turned to Brittany, and I watched something shift in her face. Not surprise. That's what got me. Not surprise. Recognition. Brittany. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me you did not put your hands on that chair. Mama, I was trying to help her. She was leaning and I... Do not. 2 words, quiet as a closed door. My mother walked past Brittany like she wasn't there, walked past Sage, walked past Connor and Christina, and my Aunt Georgina who hadn't moved from her lawn chair. She walked straight to me, and she crouched down in front of my wheelchair, bad knees and good apron and all, and she took my scraped-up palms in both of her hands. She looked at the gravel still embedded in my left hand. She pressed her lips together so tight they went white. Baby. That one word broke something open in me that I had been holding shut for 2 years. I didn't cry. I refused to cry in that backyard in front of all those people, but my throat closed up so hard it hurt. I should have seen it sooner. She wasn't talking to the yard. She was talking to me, just me, her voice low enough that it was almost private. I should have seen what she was doing to you. I told myself it was just how sisters fight. I told myself you were both just... She stopped, squeezed my hands. I'm sorry, baby.
Behind us, Brittany made a sound, half laugh, half something else. Mama, are you serious right now? You're apologizing to her? She's been... My mother stood up, slow, deliberate, turned around. Brittany Lynn Howard, you will not say another word. The yard was so quiet I could hear the sprinklers going 3 houses down. She turned to Sage. You said there's an officer nearby. 2 streets over, waiting on Chelsea's decision. My mother nodded once, then she looked at me. It's your call, baby. Whatever you decide, I'm standing right here. I looked at Brittany. She was doing the thing, the eyes, the panic, the silent plea that had worked on me since we were children, since she broke my Walkman and blamed it on a kid from school, since she told our father I started the fight that made him leave that last time, since she convinced our entire family that my wheelchair was a performance and my pain was an inconvenience she had to manage. 24 years of that look. 24 years of stepping back. I looked at Sage. Call him in. Brittany's voice came apart at the seams. Chelsea, please, I'm your sister. I know. That's all I said. Sage was already on her phone, and Officer Darnell Webb, 21 years on Charlotte Mecklenburg PD, 6'2", unhurried, came through the side gate 30 seconds later like he'd been there the whole time. He looked at the scene, at me, at Brittany, at Sage's documentation. He looked at Jackson, who still had his phone in his hand. Sir, I'm going to need you to not delete anything on that device. Jackson went the color of uncooked dough. Brittany was read her rights in my mother's backyard, with the 4th of July flag still hanging on the fence, and the grill still going, and Beyoncé still playing from someone's forgotten speaker. Connor finally put down his spatula. Nobody stopped the officer. Nobody stepped forward for Brittany. Not even Jackson. She looked back at me once as Officer Webb guided her toward the gate. I didn't look away. For the first time in 24 years, I did not look away. But here's what nobody in that backyard knew yet. Sage Ellison didn't show up at that cookout by accident. Someone sent her, and it wasn't me.
I found out 3 days later. I was sitting in my apartment in Noda, North Davidson, the Arts District, Charlotte, 2nd floor unit with the ramp that the landlord installed after 6 emails and 1 letter from my occupational therapist. I had my laptop open, a bag of frozen peas on my right knee from the fall, and a mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago because I kept forgetting to drink it. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, Charlotte area code. I almost didn't answer. Chelsea, it's Bailey. Bailey Cross, my cousin, the one who walked toward me in the backyard before Brittany stopped her with a look, the one who picked up my wheelchair without being asked, the one who, I realized now, had not said a single word the entire rest of that afternoon, not when the officer came, not when Brittany was walked to the gate, not when the yard slowly emptied out like air leaving a room. She'd just disappeared. I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me get through the whole thing before you say anything. Can you do that? Yeah. She took a breath. I called Sage Ellison 6 weeks ago. I found her through the Disability Rights Office in Raleigh, and I called her, and I told her what Brittany had been doing to you, and I asked her to come. I sat there. The frozen peas slid off my knee. Bailey, I know I should have told you. I know it wasn't my call to make without asking you first, and if you're angry, that's fair, I deserve that. But Chelsea," her voice cracked just slightly, caught itself. "I watched her do it for 2 years. I watched her tell people you were faking at Thanksgiving. I watched her roll her eyes at Christmas when you asked for help getting to the table. I watched her post things. Chelsea, she was posting things online about you, without using your name, but everyone in the family knew who she meant." "What things?" "Things like—" Bailey paused. I could hear her deciding how much to say. "Things like, some people discover a personality when they discover a diagnosis. Things like praying for the strength to love people who use their struggles as a weapon. She had a whole group, Chelsea, a private Facebook group. Family members, 14 people." I put my coffee mug down before I dropped it. 14 people. 14 members of my family in a group talking about me, about whether my disability was real, about whether I was manipulating my mother, about whether the modified van and the surgery and the therapy bills were some elaborate long con, while I was learning to walk 12 steps, while I was learning to relearn how to dress myself, while I was lying in a hospital bed at Rush figuring out which version of my life was still available to me. "I got into the group," Bailey continued. "Christina added me thinking I'd agree with them. I didn't say anything for 4 months. I just read everything, took screenshots, saved everything." "You have screenshots?" "I have everything. 237 posts over 14 months. I gave all of it to Sage. She gave it to the attorney." "What attorney?" "Sage connected me with a woman named Georgina Park, disability rights attorney out of Raleigh. She's been reviewing the case for 3 weeks. Chelsea, what Brittany did on July 4th is the most documented incident, but based on what Bailey Ellison provided, it is not the worst thing your sister did to you, not by a long shot." "What do you mean?" She paused, the kind of pause that means what comes next is going to change something. "Miss Howard, did you know that someone filed an anonymous tip with the Social Security Administration 14 months ago claiming your disability benefits were fraudulent?" The room went very still. "There was an investigation. It was closed. Your medical records were clear. But someone made that call, Miss Howard, and I think we both know who." The civil case was filed on a Tuesday. Georgina Park, 52 years old, natural silver locks, 20 years of disability rights litigation, the kind of attorney who doesn't raise her voice because she never needs to, filed in Mecklenburg County Superior Court on a Tuesday morning in late September, 2 months and 11 days after the 4th of July cookout on Pinecrest Drive. The charges were not small. Battery against a disabled person, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation for the Facebook group, for the posts, for 14 months of a private audience being told that my disability was a performance and my pain was a manipulation, and interference with federal benefits for the anonymous tip filed with the Social Security Administration 14 months prior. That last one carried federal weight. Brittany's attorney, a man named Douglas Hale, personal injury, suited, perpetually slightly damp, called Georgina the morning after the filing. Georgina told me about it over the phone that afternoon, the way someone describes a thing they found mildly interesting. He wants to settle. His client is prepared to offer an apology and $30,000 to make this go away. 30,000? I told him no. We go to discovery. Discovery is where cases like this either collapse or become unavoidable. Attorneys exchange evidence. Both sides see everything. And everything in this case meant 237 posts in a private Facebook group over 14 months, screenshotted and timestamped by Bailey Cross, organized by date and cross-referenced against my medical appointments. Brittany had posted the night before my spinal fusion surgery. The night before, while I was in a hospital bed at Atrium Health, scared in a way I had never told anyone, she was in a Facebook group telling family members that the surgery was probably unnecessary and that I had found a doctor willing to operate for the insurance money. When Georgina read that one to me in her office, I didn't say anything for almost a full minute. She waited. She didn't try to fill the silence. That's how I knew she was good at her job. How did she think this wouldn't come out? People who do this kind of thing over a long period of time start to feel protected by the pattern. It's worked for years. The family believed her. You stayed quiet. Every time you absorbed it and moved on, it confirmed to her that she could keep going. She slid a document across the desk. Douglas Hale called again this morning. His client is now offering $110,000. What do you recommend? I recommend we go to court. The hearing was November. Judge Carol Simmons, Mecklenburg County Superior Court, 23 years on the bench, read through Georgina's filing with the expression of someone doing very precise arithmetic. Brittany sat at the defendant's table in a gray blazer I'd never seen before. Her hair was pulled back, no acrylic nails. She looked like a different person, which I understood was the point. Jackson was not there. He had provided his video footage voluntarily to avoid being named as a co-defendant. Make of that what you will. I testified for 40 minutes. Georgina walked me through the timeline, the accident, the surgery, the recovery, the first time Brittany told a family member I was faking, the escalation, the Facebook group, the SSA tip, the cookout. Douglas Hale cross-examined me for 22 minutes. He asked if I had ever walked without my wheelchair in the presence of family members. Yes, during physical therapy milestones, I demonstrated 12 to 15 steps with a walker. I shared those moments with my family because my therapist encouraged celebrating progress. Those moments were then used by my sister as evidence that I was not disabled. He moved on. He asked if I had ever expressed frustration with the costs of my care in front of family. Yes, I said once at Easter that the out-of-pocket costs for my orthotic brace were difficult to manage. My sister posted about it in the Facebook group the same evening, describing me, quote, financially manipulating my mother. He moved on. Sage testified. Bailey testified. Georgina entered the 237 posts into the record one by one. Not all of them read aloud, but each one logged, each one dated, each one sitting in that courtroom like a stone being placed on a scale. Then Georgina called her final witness, my mother. Georgette Howard took the stand in her good church clothes, navy dress, pearl earrings, and she was sworn in and she sat up straight the way she always sat, shoulders back, chin level, the posture of a woman who taught 26 years of 4th grade and meant every word she said. Georgina asked her one question. Mrs. Howard, before July 4th of this year, did you have doubts about the severity of your daughter Chelsea's disability? My mother looked at her hands for a moment. Then she looked at me. Yes. And where did those doubts come from? My mother's jaw tightened. My sister. For a period of about 2 years, my older sister told me consistently that Chelsea was exaggerating, that the wheelchair was not always necessary, that Chelsea was using her condition to avoid responsibility and to draw on my resources. She said it so many times in so many different ways that she stopped, started again. I started to believe it, parts of it, and I am ashamed of that. I am deeply ashamed of that. The courtroom was very quiet.
At the defendant's table, Brittany was staring at the surface in front of her, not at our mother, not at me, just at the table. Judge Simmons ruled 3 weeks later. Battery against a disabled person, liable. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, liable. Defamation, liable. The SSA interference count was referred to federal prosecutors for separate review. The civil judgment came to $214,000. Medical costs, therapy, the orthotic brace, pain and suffering, punitive damages for the Facebook group. Brittany would be paying it for a very long time. Georgina called me from the courthouse steps. "You won, Chelsea." I sat with that for a second. Doesn't feel like winning. It never does. But you sent a message to your family, to everyone watching, that this kind of thing has a cost, that disabled people are not available to be disbelieved into silence. I looked out my apartment window at the kid on the bike still hitting that same crack in the sidewalk, loop after loop after loop. I thought about all the people sitting in wheelchairs right now with families who have a private group they don't know about. All the people absorbing it, staying quiet, protecting people who are not protecting them, believing somehow that they are the problem. But there was still one thing I hadn't done, one conversation I had been putting off since July, one door I hadn't decided whether to open or keep shut. Brittany had called me 5 times since the ruling. I had not answered. On the 5th call, I picked up.
She didn't say hello. She just said, "I know you didn't have to pick up." I was in my kitchen. It was a Wednesday evening, first week of December, Charlotte cold enough now that the baseboard heaters were clicking on and off every 20 minutes. I had leftover soup on the stove that I kept forgetting to eat. My physical therapy notes were spread across the table from my afternoon session. 3 more weeks until we attempted the next distance milestone. 19 steps this time, up from 12. Every step a negotiation between my body and the damage inside it. I almost didn't. Brittany was quiet for a moment. I could hear her breathing, could hear a television somewhere in the background. She'd moved out of the house she shared with Jackson after the trial. He'd left before she did, actually. Took his things on a Sunday while she was at her mother's. Our mother's. The house on Pinecrest Drive, where all of this started. "I've been going to therapy." Her voice was different. Not the hostess voice, not the managing voice, not the voice she used when she was building a case against me in a room full of people. Just her voice, stripped of everything she usually kept on top of it. "Good." She asked me, my therapist, she asked me to think about when it started, when I started believing you were faking. I didn't say anything. I turned the burner off under the soup. And, Chelsea, I sat with that for 3 full weeks. 3 full weeks. And I think... She stopped. Started again. I think I needed you to be faking. I needed it to be a choice you were making. Because if it was real, if what happened to you was real and permanent and something that could just happen to a person for no reason, then nothing was safe. Nothing was guaranteed. And I couldn't live with that. So I decided you were lying. And then Her voice broke. Not dramatically, just a small fracture, the kind that's worse than crying. And then I built a whole world around that decision. I stood in my kitchen with the phone against my ear and the soup going cold and the baseboard heater clicking on and off again, and I thought about what it costs a person to say that. Not in a courtroom, not to an attorney, not in a deposition, just to the person they hurt, on a Wednesday in December with no audience and nothing left to gain from the performance. I thought about a night before my surgery.
I thought about the Facebook group. I thought about 237 posts. I thought about every family gathering I left feeling smaller than when I arrived. And I thought about something Sage Ellison said to me once, sitting in her office in uptown Charlotte, 2 weeks after the cookout, when I asked her how people come back from something like this. She said, "They don't come back, they go somewhere new. Coming back means returning to what was. What was didn't work. The question isn't how to get back to before. The question is what you're willing to build from here." Brittany. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you I forgive you tonight. I'm not there yet, and I won't lie to you about it. I know. But I heard what you just said, and I believe that you meant it, and that... I looked out the kitchen window at the street below, a couple walking a dog, Christmas lights on the house across the way, the cheap blinking kind, blue and white. That's not nothing. Brittany exhaled, long and slow, like she'd been holding it since July. Chelsea, the SSA thing, the tip I filed? I know it was you. I know you know. I need to say it out loud. I filed it. I told them you were collecting benefits fraudulently. I told you you could walk without assistance. I gave your name, your address, your case number. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. While you were recovering from surgery, I filed it while you were recovering from surgery. I pressed my hand flat against the kitchen counter. The cold of the laminate, something solid, real. The Federal Review is still open, Brittany. Georgina's office is cooperating with the review. That's not in my hands anymore. I know. Whatever comes from that, you have to stand in it. I can't protect you from it. I won't. I'm not asking you to. Silence settled between us, not the hostile kind, not the kind from every holiday table and every family gathering, just silence, the ordinary kind between two people who have run out of the easy words and haven't yet found the harder ones. How's Mom? I asked finally. She misses you. She won't say it, you know how she is, but she asks Bailey about you every week. I'm going to call her this weekend. She'll be glad. Another silence. Shorter this time. Chelsea, can I ask you something? Yeah. Do you think, not now, not soon, but someday, do you think there's a version of this where we're sisters again? Where we're okay? I looked at the soup on the stove, cold now, I'd have to reheat it. I looked at my therapy notes on the table, 19 steps, 3 more weeks. I looked at my hands, the left one where the gravel scars from the cookout had faded to almost nothing. Almost. Ask me again in a year. Brittany made a sound that might have been a small laugh or might have been something else entirely. Okay. We said goodbye. No warmth, but no coldness either. Just two people hanging up a phone and going back to their separate Wednesday evenings in a city big enough to fold them both without collision. I reheated the soup. I ate it standing at the counter, looking out the window at the blinking blue and white lights across the street. And for the first time since July, I didn't feel like I was bracing for something. I just felt present, in my kitchen, in my body, in my life. which is more than I can say for a long time before that. But there was still one more thing. One more room I had to walk into. Literally. 3 weeks later, at my physical therapy session at Atrium Health Musculoskeletal Institute on Randolph Road, Charlotte, NC, I took 19 steps. Then I took a 20th step, then a 21st. My therapist, Connor, not my cousin Connor, different Connor, the good kind, stopped counting out loud and just watched. When I finally stopped at 24 steps, he said, "Chelsea, that's the most ground you've covered in 27 months." I stood there in the rehabilitation gym, walker in both hands, right leg shaking with the effort, pain at about a 6, maybe a 7. And I thought about a backyard in July. About the grass coming up fast, about a wheel spinning slow in the July heat, about nobody picking it up. And then about Bailey picking it up. About Sage Ellison walking across that yard, about my mother crouching down in her good apron and taking my scraped hands in hers. About Georgina Park saying, "Disabled people are not available to be disbelieved into silence." 24 steps. It is not nothing.
A year is a long time to watch people live with what they chose. Here is what happened to everyone. Jackson deleted the video from his phone the night of the cookout. It didn't matter. Sage had already received copies from 2 other guests by 8 o'clock that evening. He cooperated fully with the civil case, gave a deposition that lasted 4 hours, and in doing so handed Georgina Park everything she needed. He and Brittany were done before the leaves changed. Last Bailey heard, he was in Greensboro. Nobody asked after him. My Aunt Georgina, the one who said, "Lord, not again," from her lawn chair, sent me a card in August. 3 sentences. I should have gotten up. I'm sorry I didn't. I love you. No excuses, no explanation, just those 3 sentences in her cursive that looks exactly like my mother's. I called her. We talked for 2 hours. That one I kept. Connor, my actual cousin Connor, spatula in hand, not moving, sent a text in September. "Hey, I don't know what to say except I froze and I shouldn't have." I wrote back, "Then don't freeze next time." He said, "Okay." I believed him. Christina, who stood on the porch steps with her phone halfway to her chest and finally knelt in the grass beside me, she came to every single one of my court dates, sat in the gallery, didn't ask for anything, didn't make it about herself, just showed up every time, which is sometimes the whole of what a person needs. The 14 members of the Facebook group. That one is harder to summarize neatly. 6 of them reached out. 2 apologies felt real, specific, accountable, no conditions attached. 4 felt like people apologizing to protect themselves from what came next. I accepted all 6 the same way. Acknowledged, noted, filed. What people do after an apology matters more than the apology. I'm still watching. The other 8 said nothing. I stopped waiting. The federal review of the SSA tip Brittany filed, that closed in March. Filing a false report with the Social Security Administration is a federal offense under 18 U.S.C. Section 1000, making false statements to a federal agency. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina declined to prosecute in exchange for Brittany's full cooperation and assigned admission of the filing. The admission became part of the public court record. Her name is on it, permanently. That is a consequence she will carry the rest of her life, and it did not come from me. It came from what she chose to do. Brittany herself, she is still in therapy, weekly from what my mother says.
She lost her job in the fall. A colleague found the court records, told HR, and the company cited conduct unbecoming. She found another position in February, smaller company, different industry. She is paying the civil judgment in monthly installments. She will be paying it for 11 years. She called me on the 1-year anniversary of the cookout, July 4th. Same date, different year. She said, "I know I said ask me in a year, so I'm asking." I had thought about this moment for 12 months, what I would say, whether I would be ready, whether readiness was even the right frame for something like forgiveness, which I had come to understand is not a door you walk through once and find yourself on the other side of, but more like a road you choose to stay on or leave every single day. "I forgive you for being afraid," I told her, "for not knowing how to sit with something that scared you, for being the kind of person who needed a villain and chose me because I was closest. And the rest? The rest I'm still working on. I won't pretend otherwise. That's fair. Brittany, don't make my wheelchair the thing that taught you who to be. You do the work because you want to be better, not because of what you did to me." Silence. "You're right. I know I am. We are not sisters the way we were before. Before wasn't working anyway. We are something new, something that doesn't have a clean name yet, something careful and slow and built on the understanding that trust is not restored, it is reconstructed, piece by piece, over time, with evidence. Maybe that is enough. Maybe it has to be." In February, Sage Ellison asked me to speak at a disability rights summit at the Charlotte Convention Center. Legislators, advocates, social workers, medical professionals. 300 people in a room. I almost said no. Then I thought about the 14 people in that Facebook group who believed my pain was negligible. I thought about every family dinner table in America where someone is sitting in a wheelchair or managing an invisible illness or fighting through chronic pain, and someone across the table has already decided they are exaggerating. I thought about all the people who have no Bailey, no Sage, no Georgina Park, no mother who finally crouches down in her good apron and says, "I'm sorry." I said yes. The speech lasted 18 minutes. I told them everything: the accident, the surgery, the 14 screws and the 2 rods, and the nerve that misfires, and the right leg that doesn't always remember it belongs to me, the cookout, the grass coming up fast, the wheel spinning in the July heat, the stranger at the fence who turned out to be the most prepared person in the room. I told them about the Facebook group, about the SSA tip, about 237 posts and the cost of staying quiet, and what happens when you finally stop. When I finished, the room was still for a moment. Then a woman in the 3rd row started clapping, then the row behind her, then the whole room, standing, those who could stand, and the sound filled the convention center, and I sat in my wheelchair at the podium, and I let it wash over me, without deflecting it, without minimizing it, without doing the thing I had always done, which was to make myself smaller so other people could be more comfortable. After, a woman found me near the exit, late 30s, power chair. She had the look of someone who had been holding something for a long time and had finally found somewhere to set it down. "My husband thinks I'm faking. 2 years. He's never said it directly, but I see it, the way he sighs when I can't do something, the way he explains my condition to people at parties like it's a personality quirk, the way he—" She stopped, steadied herself. "How do you make someone believe you?" I thought about that for a moment. "You document everything, every appointment, every diagnosis, every moment of progress, and every setback. You build a record not because you owe anyone proof, but because the record protects you when people decide their discomfort matters more than your reality." "And if they still don't believe me?"
Then you find out what you're willing to live with and what you're not. She nodded slowly. The kind of nod means, I already knew that, I just needed to hear someone say it. She hugged me before she left, held on for a moment longer than a stranger usually would. I understood that kind of holding on. I am Chelsea Howard. I am 32 years old. I have 2 titanium rods in my lumbar spine and 14 surgical screws and a right leg that is learning, slowly, to remember it belongs to me. Last week, I walked 27 steps, 3 more than the week before. 3 more than anyone who stood in that backyard on the 4th of July thought I was capable of. I am not a story about overcoming. I am not an inspiration. I am not a lesson for my sister to learn from, or a cautionary tale for people who doubt disabled people, or a redemption arc for anyone who stood in that backyard and did nothing. I am a person who was on the ground, who got back up, who kept going, who will keep going, not because it's easy, because it's mine. 27 steps. Next week, 28.